tuned in to the hottest show on the internet. It is because I have the best guests. I'm confident in that. I believe it. I know it. I feel it. Welcome to Seattle Connected, the show that connects you with entrepreneurs, business people, movers and shakers in our community, putting a spotlight on them before they become household names, which we know they soon will be. Today's guest is a very special guest because it's a special topic. It is the brilliant, remarkable, one-of-a-kind Phoebe from 253 Therapy. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Was the intro okay? I always have to ask the guest. Was it?
Absolutely. Okay. I wasn't expecting all those, remarkable words.
Of course.
But yeah.
It's true.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Thank you for taking time to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Phoebe, I have a question for you because, you're from 253 Therapy, and therapy is something that I really strongly believe in, and I suggest for people. And I wanted to know, how did you get into that field?
Yeah. That is a very good question. So I'm originally from Ghana. And
Ghana,
so,
Ghana in the house.
Shout out to the 233.
Yes, 233.
So I always knew I wanted to get into the helping professions.
Yes.
I initially wanted to be a gynecologist. So when I moved to the U.S., went to college, I was a pre-med major for a hot minute. And I was also a psychology major because I knew I wanted to get to know and understand people. So interestingly enough, when it came time to declare, my major and make sure I had all my prerequisites and everything, my advisor at school looked at me and was like, why are you wasting your time in pre-med? You're excelling in psychology. So why? And I had to look at him and be like, yo, where I'm from, you're either a doctor, a pharmacist, a lawyer, architect, or
something
bust.
in that field. Yeah.
If it's not one of those, then it's like you got to check yourself. So it was a very scary moment for me to admit to my father, especially, and tell him, hey, I want to get into psychology. I want to learn about people and support people. And so it wasn't until I got to my senior year that I actually decided I wanted to get my master's degree in marriage and family therapy, because family is something that's very, very important to me and to my culture. It really is what forms us. And so that was my motivation. I really wanted to help and support and really work with people and hear people's stories too. I love being a listener, and I also love talking too. That might be my little I love to talk.
Yeah, me too. That's what I definitely love to talk as well. I just like to share what I know, and I love to hear what other people love to share. Now, how did your dad react when you told him the news?
He said that was a waste of his money because my
Dad,
father really wanted me to get into medicine. That was a dream that he had for me, and really, not just him, my whole family. And so when I told him initially, he got upset. I was shaking the entire conversation. And then finally he said, you know what? Whatever you do, I will support you. Just do the best that you can. And I would like to say that he's pretty proud of me now.
That's good.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dad.
Yeah.
If you see this, shout out to Dad. It's very important, you know, when you have the support from your family. It helps.
Absolutely.
It helps.
Absolutely.
So now, what's one of the biggest misconceptions you would say that people have about, mental health, or saying, you know what, I want to go seek out getting, therapy for myself or a loved one? What's the biggest misconception that you usually come across from patients?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think a lot of times people look at others who seek therapy as quote unquote crazy, that there's something going on with you, that there is you're hearing voices. People go to the extreme.
Yeah.
There isn't that understanding that there's levels to this thing, and there are different things that go on with people that make them go into therapy or seek mental health support.
Yeah.
So when you think about people who will typically seek support, some of the stigma that comes from people who are around them is that you're weak. Yeah. And for those who are, for example, religious, like Christian, it's you don't believe in God enough, or you're not strong enough. And, it's kind of sad in many ways, but that's part of, what I do, is to help debunk some of those myths and really educate people about what it means to go to therapy. And I'm one of those therapists who's proud to let my clients know and everybody know that I go to therapy too. I've been going to therapy for several years, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge part of who I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, have you seen a spike in people reaching out for help since COVID-19 hit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Huge. And so that is even what kind of propelled my practice 253 Therapy and Consult to where it's at, because I was getting so many inquiries. I was getting so many requests for services, especially from BIPOC folks. And it was too much for me. And so I decided to grow the practice and bring on some more practitioners. So yes, for the first time in our lives as therapists, even, we were facing the same things that our clients were facing.
Yeah.
So we had this pandemic. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know what direction it was going in. People were actually staying at home with each other, especially like with couples, right? Because I work with couples.
Yeah.
And they were realizing, I don't like you. Because people were using work and other things to escape.
Yeah.
And then now everything got shut down. We had to stay at home. We couldn't go on vacation. We couldn't go kiki with our friends at the bar and all that stuff. And it's like, now I got to look you in the eye. And then I realized
It's real.
it's real. And
It's real.
I don't like you. And then for those who have kids, with parents who have kids, they had to sit at home with their kids and realize, okay, maybe your teacher was right, that you be cutting up a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there definitely has been an increase in requests for services, and especially because the conversation around mental health has really increased over the last, I would say, 3 years to 3-4 years.
Okay.
So people are more open about it these days.
That's good. And I was gonna ask you now. We'll say I'm a patient. I'm someone coming to you, and I say, "Hey, I feel like I'm depressed a lot." Now, when someone is experiencing depression, does that necessarily mean there's quote unquote something wrong with them?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't believe that there's something wrong with people. It's that we have different struggles that we face. Because when you think about the term something wrong with you, it really like demonizes, and it makes you seem like you ain't right in some kind of way, and that's not the case. We all have different struggles that we go through. So when someone says that they're depressed, it might really just be something going on with their mood, and their appetite might be changing. They might be sleeping a lot more or a lot less, and there are chemical imbalances that also go on with us. Hormones play a role in a lot of these things too that we experience mentally and emotionally.
Yeah. Now, do you work with families or just individuals?
I work with individuals, couples, and families.
Oh. Wow.
The whole gamut.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And now with that, do you ever have any patients say, I should have done this sooner?
Absolutely.
I don't know why I waited so long.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even with that, like, I call them clients, right? Because
Yes,
when we
clients.
use the word patient, it kind of goes to that medical model
apologize.
of no, that's totally
Yeah.
fine. That's something that we're, like I said, we're
got
still
you.
working through and trying to even like educate folks on and talk about openly, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to that medical model and that idea of like sickness, right? When that's not necessarily the case. But yes, I do have a lot of clients who come in and we talk and they start, going through their own processes and they're healing and they have better boundaries and they're using their words and they're using I statements and things like that. And they're like, yo, I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. Like I should have been here. But you know what? I believe in timing, because sometimes if people come in earlier than they're actually ready for the work, they might not stick around. They might not be committed to the work. But sometimes there's something that happens. Something, propels them in that direction, and they come in, they're like, okay, I'm ready to this. Because I've had some, we call them boomerang clients, where, they come for a little bit and they're like, I don't know about this. And then they go and then they come back and like, actually, you know what? I'm ready. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the door is always open too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate that. And I myself have done therapy, and I definitely recommend it to
Great.
everyone listening.
Yeah.
And, knowing that it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yes.
It actually shows that you're a human being.
Yes.
You're real. You're a person.
Absolutely. Yes.
You're not expected to live up to what social media considers perfect.
Right.
Because, even these images that you see, they were created to get you to think this is what reality is when it's not.
It's not.
So it's like someone saying, I'm going to stage this, I'm going to quote this, write this, place this here, because I'm trying to almost sell you a product. But that's not real life.
Yeah.
That's marketing
Yeah.
in a way. So
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
that's great that there's more tools available
Yes.
for this generation coming up than it was, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I appreciate your work. When would you encourage someone to seek help? Like, at what point would you say, I would encourage them to reach out and find somebody that they trust or they want to confide in if they're going through a struggle in their personal life?
Yeah. I believe that whenever you get to that point where you are not yourself, you feel like there's something different. For example, you can't focus, right? Or you're not sleeping well, or you find yourself ruminating. You're thinking about the same thing over and over again. Your mind goes to that worst case scenario. Or if something has happened in your life, right? It doesn't have to be like what we call a big T trauma, like a huge, horrible struggle that has happened. But, some of the things that don't sit right with you, things happening at work, for example, we don't have to wait until things are horrible before we start to seek some help. Right. I think that we need to have a commitment to our own growth, our personal growth. And so whenever something just doesn't seem right, something doesn't seem like it's the usual, right? If you're used to doing things or functioning at a certain level and you realize, I'm not functioning at that level. Or if someone that is in your life is like, hey, something seems off with you these days.
Right.
You don't seem to be yourself. I think that that's always a great time to start therapy or to seek some help.
Okay, so what are some of the reasons that you usually hear people say, well, I don't need to go to therapy, or what are the things that are holding them back from seeking help when they should?
Yeah. Culture is a huge one. So for immigrants like myself, where, we're taught to struggle and taught to figure things out on our own, or just kind of keep it secret, keep it to ourselves, not talk about the difficult things. You're not supposed to go out and bring shame to the family. You're not supposed to go out and talk about marriage or your spouse or your partner hitting you and things like that. I think that that's a huge piece. Religion is another thing that sometimes gets in the way. People believe that they're supposed to take their problems only to God, or take their problems to their pastor, imam, spiritual leader, something like that, and not allowing for there to be space for other people, other helping professionals or helpers or support systems to be a part of their lives. And there's also the misconception about therapy in general, which is what we've been talking about, since we started talking today, around like what it means to be in therapy. What if people find out that I'm going to therapy? Are they going to think that I'm crazy, that,
Like
there's something going on?
Yeah,
right. Lifetime movie, something like that, that like I'm walking
extreme.
Around with 5 voices in my head telling me what to do and things like that. And sometimes another thing that gets in the way is cost. People can't always afford healthcare in this country. Like, we could have a whole conversation about healthcare in this country, and insurance and everything that comes with it. And, and the mental health field, especially for those in like the private practice, there's a huge shift where therapists are stopping, insurance. They're not taking insurance, and so they're charging full price for their services because insurance companies have not been the best with us. Yeah. So what is happening is that people can't always afford, so cost is something that is really getting in the way of people seeking the services, and also people just don't know where to look. I was recently doing a series on my Instagram about access to mental health services, and, just talking about where to find a therapist, because you can go on Google and everything, but if you don't know what to Google, it can get pretty overwhelming. It's like that's the World Wide Web.
Yeah, that kind of aligns with the question I was going to ask you now. But before we go there, I was going to ask you about young adults. Mm-hmm. Do you ever come across, I guess you could say, high school or college kids who are going through a time and they don't know how to seek help because sometimes you might not feel comfortable telling your parents certain things, and I don't want, like you were saying, you don't want to feel shame, or but at the same time you don't want to tell your friends because they'll think I'm crazy or whatnot. So have you had that type of experience with some of your younger clients?
Absolutely. I've been working with a lot of younger folks for several years. Most of my career has been working with younger folks. I worked in a high school, a couple of different high schools, and I see a lot of college students, and that's definitely something that's there. What's different here though is these young people these days, they are not afraid to talk about their feelings. Okay. And they're not afraid to seek help. they are very much, they know what they want, they know what they need, and they know the world that they've come into. So because there's more conversations about mental health these days, they will initiate services. They will come and they will talk to you. I used to work at a high school down in the Puget Sound, South Sound area, and the students would just walk into the office, Missy, we gotta talk. And just take a seat, not like asking like, hey, are you free? But no, because I have that open door policy too. Yeah, so they would just come see him like, you're not gonna believe it, and then they start telling me all these different things, and so I think that there's a shift there with the young people, and it makes me so excited for their future too, because they're going to be okay. The kids are going to be all right. Yeah, they're going to be all right.
Yeah, and I think there's probably some stories where the kids actually can lead a way for the parents to get comfortable, and they say, you know what, maybe I should try that. And
absolutely. I have that happen very frequently, because especially being a Black African immigrant woman, and I have clients coming in, young clients, and they come in, they meet me, and then they go home, and then they talk about Miss Phoebe. And so finally I have a parent come in like, hey, I've heard Miss Phoebe. Is Miss Phoebe really here? And then they come and Miss Phoebe sitting there like, oh, hey, you look like me. Can I talk to you too? Yeah. And then sometimes that's how the conversation starts. And I love it. It's such a beautiful experience to have that, the young adult or the child or the teen be the one to, hook the parents into services. Because sometimes the parents can also see that my child is different. Something is happening here. They're using the words more. They're not, popping off like they used to, and they're using feeling words and things like that. Their diction has changed. And it's always a great thing for the family.
Yeah. Okay. So what type of services do you guys provide at 253 Therapy?
Yeah, we do individual, couples, and family therapy.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a wide range of experience within the practice. So we have different, age groups. There are some therapists who work with younger kids, like all the way down to like 4. There are some of us who work with adults only. I personally work with adults only at this stage. After I had my own kids, I was like, whatever I got, I have to save for my kids. So I only see adults now. And so we have a wide range where, multi-dimensional in many different ways. And so we all have different backgrounds, multiracial also, just in the clients that we serve. And so we are out here doing it. Yeah. We're out here doing it. So yeah, individuals, families, and couples also. And we also do a lot of like outreach in the community also, just with, supporting different organizations and schools and things like that. So usually when there's like an event, for example, so like last year at the Juneteenth event that we had in Tacoma, like 253 Therapy was out there, supporting the community, giving resources and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like it. It made my heart smile just hearing that. Yeah. Now, how would someone go about if they were looking for a specific type of therapist? Like if it was a person of color, and they say, you know what, I'm willing to go to therapy, but I would like a male or a female who looks like me. How would they go about finding that type of therapist?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the first things that they can look for is, for example, going on Google and literally searching Black therapists near me.
Okay.
Right, just that term, Black therapist near me. Or if they were to, there's so many directories, so many. So there's a directory called DMHS, Deconstructing Mental Health Services, by a good friend of mine, Makini Fortino, and that's local right here. Okay. And so there's a whole lot of BIPOC therapists that are on there that are listed. There's also the Washington Therapy Fund, where you can also get free therapy service. You can get vouchers for free therapy here in Washington. And so there's also a directory of Black and brown therapists that are on there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, started by Ashley McGirt. And so that those two, for example, are like directories that I'm on, and my practice is on, and some of my therapists are also on. And so there is therapy for Black men, melanin and mental health, therapy for Black girls also. There's so many. So you can literally just go on Google and put in BIPOC therapist near me or BIPOC therapists directory.
And you said also. DMHS?
DMHS. Okay. It's dmhs.us, I believe.
Okay.
And so so you can go on there and you can look that up, and even like our website 253therapy.com is another place where you can see our therapists. We have some BIPOC therapists in our group also.
Okay. Okay. Now, Phoebe, what are your hours?
So we usually work Monday through Friday. We have some therapists that work on Saturday, and so we also provide in-person and telehealth services.
Nice.
So just as a convenience.
Yeah.
And so personally, for example, I'm licensed here in Washington, and I'm also licensed in Washington D.C. So I can see clients in D.C. as well. So we do a lot of telehealth. So we're usually in the office anywhere from 8 to about 8 p.m. sometimes. We have all of our therapists have varying hours just because we have different kind of clients that we serve, different schedules and things like that. But the office in general is open from 8 to 6.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Phoebe, how do you pronounce your beautiful last name? I didn't want to butcher it, so I'll leave it to you.
Yes. So it's Brako-Owusu. Brako-Owusu. There you go. You got it. Yeah.
All right. Did all right. It's my first time.
Yeah, you did really well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Phoebe, if our audience would like to reach out to you, just let them know how they can get in touch with you. And
yeah. You can find me on Instagram, Phebe Brako, LMFT, or you can find me on my website, www.phebebrakolmft.com. My practice is also at www.253therapy.com. And we're on Instagram too. 253 Therapy. You can find us out there.
Yes, and we will also put that on our Facebook page, and there'll be a link on our YouTube page as well, and our Instagram page as well. And thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
This was an awesome conversation. I know we could talk for hours and hours, but that's a good thing.
Yes.
It's for a good cause. So
it is for a good cause.
Much.
Yeah, and I appreciate, the work that you're doing and highlighting us entrepreneurs and professionals out here in the Seattle area. I think that it's really great, especially for, Black and brown folks who might not have that audience or have the ability to speak out about the work that we're doing, especially when we're talking about things like mental health.
Yeah.
So
I
think it's great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Gotta give people their flowers while they could still smell them, right?
You see what I'm saying?
I appreciate that. I'll take my flowers.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys once again for watching. Like always, take care of yourself and each other. Stay connected. Until next time.